What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Podcast. This is Faraz and Zach. I'm here with Zach Rizzuto. Somewhere over here. I hope everyone's doing well on this Tuesday. We're going to talk waiver wire for week 6. We got a bunch of guys that you could add to your rosters. Listen, if you're 0-5 after 5 weeks, it's over for you. Okay. I'm just kidding. If you're 0-5, if you're 1-4, make some moves, make some trades. Pick up some guys off the waiver wire. Don't assume that it's over. All right. I was 0-3 in a couple leagues, and guess what? I'm 2-3 now. We're on our way. We are on our way to make the playoffs. Okay, it's gonna happen. All right.
All you gotta do is get in.
All you gotta do is get in because you never know what's gonna happen. Okay, Travis Kelce can score 4 touchdowns in 1 week. You never know what's gonna happen. All right, Devontae Adams, can score 2 touchdowns
and shove a reporter,
and then shove cameraman. It can happen. Okay.
I saw he's facing punishment or something for that. I really hope that's not a suspension.
Maybe he goes. Oh my god! Like I saw that too, and I was just like, see the thing with Devontae Adams, like he seems like such a nice dude. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He seems like a nice, like a genuinely nice guy, and for him to do that, he must be super frustrated. Because the Raiders are 1-4.
Yeah,
they're doing worse than my fantasy team, and that's not good, right?
No.
He obviously the Packers, would be doing much better with him. I would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason they've been struggling, and part of the reasons that they've had not so great teams beat them or even be in games with them, is because they don't have Devontae Adams. And I think it's that simple, to be honest with you. I think the offense would be clicking way different if Devontae Adams was there. And I think he knows that. I don't know if you saw this before the game. There was like a fan, there was a Green Bay fan with a Green Bay Devontae Adams jersey, like in the stands. And like he had a pouty face and he had a sign saying, "I miss you, Devontae." And Devontae looked at him and he goes, "I miss you too."
Yeah, especially after last night.
Especially after last night. This is before the game.
Yeah.
He probably found that guy afterwards and be like, "Hey, please take me home."
Yeah.
But Travis Kelce, that's not what I meant. Travis Kelce, 7 catches, 4 touchdowns, 25 receiving yards. That is receiving line for the books.
Yeah.
All of Mahomes' touchdowns went Kelce's way. Juju looked like he was hurt out there. He was questionable coming into the game, but the dude couldn't get anything going. He gets a downgrade for me at this point as a low-end wide receiver 3. I've been saying that we should be buying him, but I just feel like, it's not there. It's not apparent. He's running a lot of routes. He's not looking like he's 100%. I don't think that, is looking great. So I'm downgrading him to like a low-end wide receiver 3 at this point. He's not like a guy that you have to have in your lineup by any means going forward.
Again, you go back to, we've been saying he's a buy because he's getting that target share, and he did, last night again. He got the target share that we're looking for. It's just the production isn't catching up. Yeah, at this point, it's worth wondering. I mean, it doesn't help that Travis Kelce had 4 touchdowns.
On that first touchdown, Juju was wide open, like right in front of Kelce.
Mm-hmm.
But the ball just zipped by Juju, like on purpose, because Mahomes was aiming for Kelce. But Juju was like wide open, probably an easier throw.
Yeah,
from Mahomes. Mahomes was like, "I don't care. I'm getting my guy his touchdown. It's my boy. Travis Kelce is my boy. Juju, you just got here. All right, you got to earn it." So yeah, no, I think he'll be fine, but as of right now, he's not a high-end player by any means. Josh Jacobs though, 80% snap share, 26 opportunities, his 3rd game in a row with 5 catches. His workload is completely different this year. Very involved in the passing game, running a ton of routes. He's playing in the 2-minute offense. He's playing on 3rd downs. He is a solid RB1 with this type of workload right now.
Yeah, 100%. And if you watch the game last night and you see the way he's running, it's pretty ridiculous. I feel like he's been pretty underutilized throughout his career. And these past 2 games, they actually gave him a workload that he could actually do some damage with. And he's taken full advantage. I mean, I forget. Is it back-to-back weeks with 150 yards on the ground, or do you have like 140 last week? Something
I don't know, but he has like 200. He's like averaging like a close to like 180 total yards over the past 2 games.
Yeah.
Combined,
Yeah,
receiving
yeah.
and rushing. It's unbelievable.
And he's kind of been, I don't want to call it a breakout because he's been around for a while, but he's actually showing us the talent um, that we kind of saw him as having. They just didn't really use him in Las Vegas. You know, throughout his career, he's been kind of underwhelming. People have drafted him. They probably drafted him this season as a low end RB2, and that's what they got the first 2-3 weeks. But now these last 2 weeks, he's looking like a high end RB1 as long as his workload sticks around. The Raiders did decline. They declined his 5th-year option, right?
They did,
Which is funny because he's now playing himself into a new contract if he continues to do this. You know what I'm saying?
And it kind of makes sense, right? Because you don't want to pay a running back at the end of the day. As good as Josh Jacobs is doing right now, it's probably better to just play Zamir White next year or draft another running back and have them share the workload. Like from a finance perspective, it doesn't make sense to pay Jacobs. So I think this is the right move. You don't pay the guy. You don't take his 5th-year option, which was very expensive. Number one. Number two, you give him a ton of touches. Just like, why would you give him like 400 touches and then the next year you give him like a boatload of money? For a running back, it doesn't really make that much sense, especially this far into his career. And he's a relatively young running back, but he does have some touches on him so far throughout his career. Now, moving, like, he was always game script dependent, right? That was his thing. And his issue was never like, getting it done with volume. It was more like, well, he gets game scripted out. He comes off the field too much, and he's not coming off the field right now. 3rd downs, 2-minute offense, he's on the field. So that's great.
It seems like they figured out that he's actually worth having as part of the offense. They're not throwing it as much; they're running it, and it's been better for the team overall. Obviously, they fell short a little bit last night, but not only for fantasy. Fantasy owners are liking to see Josh Jacobs is involved, and Devontae Adams can still do his thing. With Josh Jacobs performing this way, he did have 3 catches, 2 touchdowns. Looked almost Gabe Davis-esque last night, but
Gabe Davis-esque.
Yeah.
Don't insult Devontae Adams like that. He already had a bad night.
Right.
He had 2 touchdowns, but didn't end so well. He was upset.
But the offense as a whole looked better, and I think the team's going to have a lot better chance to win some games moving forward. I wouldn't be surprised to see if they stick with this. I'm not thinking that they're going to go away from Josh Jacobs suddenly because it seems like they're happy with the way he's producing and the way it's helping the team forward. I'd look for this volume to continue for Josh Jacobs. I think he's a pretty solid RB1 moving forward until further notice.
Agreed. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 9 carries, 15 yards, 3 catches for 20 yards, 1 target, doink, off the helmet. Yep. This is literally what every game looks like if CH doesn't score a touchdown. He almost scored. He was on the half-yard line. And if you're wondering what that was that stopped him at the goal line, it wasn't a tackle. It was regression. That's what that was.
Yeah, that's what it was. It's what we've been saying this whole time. It finally happened. That's Clyde Edwards-Helaire came back down to earth. And if you sold last week, good. And I'm not sure if people are going to be like, immediately turned off. Like, okay, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back. That we know he's not going to be producing anymore. He might have more games like he had to open the season, but this is the true, production that you should be expecting if this is the workload that he's going to get. I mean, Jerick McKinnon, what didn't he didn't outsnap him, did he? He was much more productive though.
Jerick McKinnon did outsnap him.
Okay.
And he had more touches.
Yeah, okay. So that tells you all you need to know.
pretty much.
Right? That's all you need to know. End of story right there.
End of story, man. All right, let's get into the waiver wire. We're gonna listen, man. If Kenneth Walker is up in your waivers, drop it all. I have a question here. How much fab for Walker from Ian? Ian, listen, man. If you're in a competitive league, just whatever you got, drop it all. Because, or if you have the most fab in the league, just drop $1 more than the next person. But, if you're like 3rd in fab budget, 4th in fab budget, just drop it all and just hope that you get them. In my leagues, if I was the 3rd or 4th highest, like with fab left, I would not get Kenneth Walker because everybody's dropping everything on this type of player. And here's why. He is Rashad Penny's out for this season. Okay, so you're going to be able to use Kenneth Walker all year long. Number 1. Number 2, the Seahawks offense is good. The Seahawks offense is fast. That's great. Kenneth Walker is also a very good running back. And we talked about this yesterday. Okay. Out of all Power 5 running backs with at least 200 carries last year, first in yards after contact per attempt, first in forced missed tackles per attempt. This dude is good. He was my favorite runner in this draft class. Breece Hall was my favorite. Well, my favorite running back was Kenneth Walker. The best prospect for me was Breece Hall because of his ability in the pass game and because of the fact that Iowa was able to use him, and they showcased that. They did not. Michigan State did not showcase that for Kenneth Walker. But he could be lights out in the run game. Okay.
Right.
Think Nick Chubb-esque in terms of not being involved in the pass game at all, but being a monster in the run game. That's Kenneth Walker's potential, honestly. And I think he could be special. So regardless of whether Kenneth Walker can be special or not, the early down running back for the Seattle at this point is something that you want. That's not something that we would have said, early this year, because we didn't know Geno Smith was going to be good. We didn't know that this was going to be a fast offense. We just thought that this offense was going to be one where you have 2 early down running backs sharing that load with a third running back coming in on passing downs. That's not the case anymore. So Kenneth Walker, drop all your fab, and that's it. Seahawks Nation. That's right.
That's right. Yeah, no, this is Kenneth Walker. This is probably the easiest and most obvious waiver wire ad that we're going to have all season. And it's probably going to be the best waiver wire ad that we're going to have all season. If you can get your hands on Kenneth Walker, you're in good shape. This is the RB1 on a suddenly good Seahawks offense. And Kenneth Walker, regardless of what we've seen, we haven't seen much of Kenneth Walker, but, we're assuming that he's going to be pretty good. The floor is very high for Kenneth Walker, especially if you're getting him on the waiver wire. You pick him up, you're getting him for free, and at worst, an every week flex play with upside. And I'm projecting him to be more of an RB2 with, RB1 upside, potentially weekly. Not necessarily RB1 on the season, but weekly RB1 upside. I'm looking at Kenneth Walker to do that as long as the Seattle offense continues to put up points, which it looks like they're going to continue to do. Geno Smith, I think we're kind of out of the phase where we're like, is Geno Smith for real? Geno Smith seems like he's the real deal right now. He's able to run the offense, not just manage the offense, but be a playmaker for the offense. So Kenneth Walker, this is kind of a gift from the fantasy gods. If you can pick up Kenneth Walker, it's going to be a huge power shift.
For sure. And he's going to be ranked as a high-end RB2 for me this week. Geno Smith, I have here at number 3. We're just talking about him. And normally I would never put quarterbacks this high because I'm assuming you're in a single quarterback league where quarterbacks aren't as valuable. But Geno Smith is getting it done. He is balling. Okay. And he earned my trust after seeing what he did in New Orleans this week. He is Pro Football Focus's number 1 graded quarterback through 5 weeks, which is unbelievable. You think about how many good quarterbacks there are in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, he's balling. Pick him up, start him. He's an every week start. So if you need a quarterback, a lot of people have Russell Wilson. I'm starting him over Russ for sure. A lot of people are drafted Matthew Stafford and they're wondering what to do at quarterback. I hope you've picked up Geno Smith if you had either of those 2 guys. Yeah. So, there's a few quarterbacks that, I'm willing to just like throw by the wayside and just continue to start Geno Smith every single week.
With Geno Smith too, not only is he getting it done, it's not like this is an explosive offense and it's full of turnovers. Geno Smith has turned the ball over. He's not. He's taking care of the ball, I think, very well compared to at least what we've seen in the past. And like I said, it's not a game manager Geno Smith. It's like a playmaker Geno Smith. He does have a rushing touchdown this season. He can still move, and he's 32, which might throw you off and make you think that he can't move. He can still move. And we've seen him be very mobile in the pocket, extending plays and getting the ball, like I said, most importantly, to his playmakers. Geno Smith has been only a good thing for the Seahawks offense so far. And he's got a pretty good matchup this week against Arizona. So I think we can definitely have Geno Smith. Would you say Geno Smith is a top 12 quarterback?
Hell yeah.
You think so?
Yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I am putting him, I'm probably going to have him ranked at like QB 9 or 10 this week.
That sounds reasonable. I like that.
Yeah. I'm doing a little experiment right now, live. Here's what I'm doing. I am looking at Tyler Lockett's game log.
Mm-hmm.
He is on pace right now for 109 receptions and 1,400 yards receiving. His best season with Russell Wilson, let's see, I'm looking at it right now. His best season with Russell Wilson has been 73 catches for almost 1,200 yards. So think about that for a second, okay?
Yeah.
We're coming into the season, we're thinking Tyler Lockett ain't going to do shit without his boy Russ. But now, Russell, if you look at Tyler Lockett, what he did this year so far, the last 4 games, straight up balling, dude. 107 yards, 76 yards, 91 yards, 104 yards. He's averaging 94.5 receiving yards and 7 catches and half a touchdown over the last 4 games. Balling.
Yeah, 100%. And DK Metcalf is getting it done too while he's doing that. So it's not like you have to pick one or the other. You can start both of them. And it's all because
these touchdowns accurate on the money.
Yeah.
Like these touchdowns in the end zone to Lockett last week, like on the money. These are the type of throws that we were used to seeing from Russ. So what a story.
Russ left his talent in Seattle for Geno Smith to kind of just pick up.
Oh man. Rachaad White, I have him here at number 2. He is the stash. If he's available in your waiver wire, you got to pick him up. He is the every down handcuff for Fournette. He's as playable as Tony Pollard is right now. If you think you can throw Pollard in your lineup as a what the heck flex, you can do the same thing with White. They played, each of them were on the field for 40% of snaps on Sunday. White is running routes. He's averaging 20 routes run over the last 2 weeks, 18 and 22. Can't say the same thing about Tony Pollard. He caught 3 or 4 targets in week 5, 5 or 5 targets in week 4. His real upside, obviously, is if anything were to happen to Fournette. Like, once you pick him up, don't drop him. If you're not going to play him, just keep him on your bench as his high upside guy, right? Like, you don't want to, drop all of your fab on Rachaad White. You want him to just stay on your bench, just like you want him to have Kenneth Walker stay on your bench. But Rachaad White has more upside because he's an every down guy. And he's going to be very involved in the passing game if anything were to happen to Fournette.
Yeah, and if anything happens to Fournette, it would be the exact same situation we're having with Kenneth Walker right now. Because if he was on your waivers, you'd be dropping 100% of your fab on Rachaad White. So if you can get him now, I'd be surprised if you're listening to this podcast and you've let Rachaad White sit on the waivers this whole time, shame on you. But get him now. Get him while you can get him with around 10 or even less fab before anything happens to Fournette, and then Rachaad White, his value explodes, and then someone at the top of the waivers is going to get him, and you won't. So
if Rachaad White is available on waivers right now, I'm dropping 50% of my fab on Rachaad White right now.
You think people are going to be making the move that much?
I think so. In competitive leagues, no, I don't think so. I just think we're at the point now where there aren't that many high upside handcuffs left on the waiver wire. It's kind of like if someone drops Alexander Madison. It's a very similar situation. If somebody drops Tony Pollard, like these guys, AJ Dillon, like if somebody drops these guys on the waiver wire, like I'm spending up to get these guys because I want them on my bench because they are league winners, right? And you don't have to drop 100%, but I'm willing to drop half my fab on these guys because they are quality players who can, with just one situation changing, they can potentially help win your league. And I don't think you can get in a competitive league. I don't think you can get away with, only 10%, 15%. If you're in a home league and, you think that, a lot of these handcuffs keep getting dropped and stuff, then like you can kind of, do whatever you need to do and you know your league better. But I don't think at this point with Rachaad White and the kind of like hype surrounding him a little bit, I don't think you'll be able to get him with only 10% of your fab.
That's fair.
Eno Benjamin for the short term, like he's a pickup this week because James Conner has a rib injury. Dal Williams has a knee injury. We don't know the extent of either right now. But if both are banged up, it makes sense to pick up the guy who can end up getting all the work. He'll be a solid RB2 with upside if both guys miss. And if I'm not mistaken, their 4th running back, Jonathan Ward, he also pulled his hamstring in the first half of that game. So like every single running back is hurt besides Eno Benjamin. So now keep in mind, if this is just a regular rib injury, there's no like cartilage injury for Connor, like he could be back this week, then maybe re-injure himself. But it could be all Eno Benjamin this week potentially. So I want to pick him up now. I'll probably spend maybe like $10, 10%. something like that, 15% maybe if I'm desperate for a running back. Just in case that he ends up being the guy this week. He'll be worth a lot more than that if you're able to plug him in the lineup with none of these guys playing.
Right. And with Eno Benjamin, you look at all of the running backs on bye this week. You have Derrick Henry, you have Dameon Pierce, you have DeAndre Swift, and Josh Jacobs all on bye. If you need to, stick it out, just make it through this week, Eno Benjamin would be a priority pickup for me. And he won't be that expensive. With all the guys that are on the waiver wire right now, you have Kenneth Walker, who could be there. And if Rachaad White's there, people will be spending up there. You could throw a little bit of fab at Eno Benjamin. I'd shoot for like maybe 15 just to get you through the week. He'd be a nice fill-in for guys that there are a lot of starting running backs out this week because of the bye. So I'm looking at Eno Benjamin to kind of carry me through. I think that's where he's going to find his value, and we have him as short-term ad for that reason.
Most competitive leagues won't have Kenneth Walker or Rachaad White available, and Eno Benjamin probably will be the top waiver wire pickup in plenty of leagues. So, if you got to get through this week, if you need a win, if you're sitting at 2-3, you need that win this week, and one of your running backs, like you just mentioned, are on bye. You got to spend up. You got to spend up on someone like Eno Benjamin to make sure that because regardless, James Conner coming back from a rib injury, most likely he's not going to be 100%. Most likely he's not going to get his full workload. So Eno Benjamin's gonna get potentially, if Conner plays, he's going to end up playing maybe 50% of snaps and still get some work. And he might end up scoring. So you can still potentially get some value out of Eno, even if Conner doesn't play. And usually, like if a running back has a knee injury, like Darrell Williams does, I don't see him playing right this week. Usually, if someone has a knee injury, they're usually out for like at least a game, right?
Yeah. With Eno Benjamin, he is the best bet to have a workload that's not going to leave you sitting there like, man, I'm only getting 3 or 4 points this week out of my running back. His workload is enough that he could get a touchdown reasonably. And he could that at that point, that's all you're looking for because he's just the bridge running back for you until you get your other running backs back.
Yeah, man, for sure. Isaiah McKenzie, I have him. No, I had Jakobi Meyers actually before Isaiah McKenzie at number 5. He's available in like 40 to 50% of leagues, not available in a lot of leagues, but he should be the highest priority wide receiver if he is available. In the games he played, 38% target share in each of his last 2 games with 2 different quarterbacks. He's got it done. So, make sure you prioritize Jakobi Meyers. I went up against Jakobi Meyers this week, and I was like, Bailey Zappi, what is he going to do with Jakobi Meyers? But, high target share earners do high target share earner things. And it is what it is. Jakobi Meyers kicked my ass. Still won, but, didn't feel good.
And Jakobi Meyers, he's the wide receiver 39 or something like that. He doesn't look good as a total point scored player, but he's averaging 17 points a game in PPR. And this is a guy that nobody was drafting. I think we were talking about him over the offseason that he wasn't being drafted, or he's being drafted in like the 14th, 15th, 16th round. So Jakobi Meyers, we kind of talked about, I know I talked about a little bit, that Jakobi Meyers, he's, even though the Patriots aren't a very pass heavy offense and their ceiling's a little bit limited, that he could be a guy that could have high target share. He's technically the wide receiver 1 there. And he's showing, he's on the field. He's solid. There's no reason, I don't think, to bench him. I think he's a really nice flex play and wide receiver 2 in a pinch.
Isaiah McKenzie at number 6. He seemed close to returning last week with a concussion. Couldn't quite make it out of the protocol in time. My assumption that he's back this week and he becomes the full-time slot for Josh Allen after Jamison Crowder broke his ankle. I do have a Khalil Shakir on the next slide at number 20 as a speculative ad, in case he has earned some of that share. But Shakir did end up running almost all of his routes from the slot in McKenzie's absence. So he's like a direct handcuff to McKenzie at this point. But, I'll look forward to see, I really liked what I saw to Shakir last week. And, if he could potentially, kind of, day at a time kind of improve his thing, maybe we see Shakir sharing that load a little bit later in the year. But, speculative ad just to see, hey, like maybe he ends up getting 30% of the routes this week and, splitting with McKenzie. But either way, McKenzie is the clear ad if he's available from that offense.
Right. And you just have to remember that Isaiah McKenzie was getting, more targets than Khalil Shakir and Gabe Davis when he was on the field. So I think Gabe Davis kind of benefited from that. Obviously, Gabe Davis's targets were much different in nature than Isaiah McKenzie's are going to be. But definitely having no Isaiah McKenzie gave Josh Allen a little bit more time to find Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis was definitely the beneficiary of Isaiah McKenzie being out. I think his production will come back to earth, definitely. And we could be looking at another quiet week for Gabe Davis if Isaiah McKenzie plays.
We got Michael Gallup at number 7 here. The Cowboys didn't have to throw it a ton on Sunday with their defense taking care of business, but Gallup did receive a 33% target share. He probably has more upside than McKenzie as a player. He never really put it all together as a consistent fantasy player, but we saw those games, we saw those boom games that he's had. But he does have a chance to do that this year as the cleared number 2 behind CeeDee Lamb. And then on top of that, you have Dalton Schultz banged up. He has a PCL injury. He might not be the same this year. Right. So, and Dalton Schultz is honestly, he's just a guy. He's not this extremely talented tight end, but the Cowboys do like him for whatever reason. So I think Gallup, if he's available on your waiver wire, he's somebody that I would prioritize. I think he'll be fine right now with Cooper Rush. But there's a chance that Dak is back this week, right?
There's a chance. He's reportedly a long shot. He has to take significant strides, was the term that they said, for him to play this week. I wouldn't count on Dak being back this week, but I think next week is very realistic for Dak to come back. I think you can add him now anyway, just like you could have added him last week and the week before. You just have to, whenever Dak gets back, his ceiling will be much higher because he'll be able to throw the ball again. They're not asking Cooper Rush to throw the ball at all because, the defense is just taking care of business. But once Dak is back, the offense will have a higher ceiling. They'll be able to run a normal offense, a much more balanced offense. It's been the run game so far this season. So Michael Gallup will have upside.
100%. Rondale Moore, he's at number 8. He was back in the slot this week with AJ Green back in the lineup. He received a 21% target share. One more week without DeAndre Hopkins for the Cardinals. So we'll see what that target share looks like after that. There is a chance it doesn't completely vanish since he'll be on the field for every play out of the slot, even with Hopkins back. But we'll see. But at least you have this one more week of him being a solid, PPR wide receiver 3 flex option. And hopefully, if you have him, you would want that to continue. But it's kind of a wait and see when Hopkins does come back.
Yeah, I like Rondale Moore. I don't think he's going to be phased out completely. Even when DeAndre Hopkins does come back. But it's going to be, I think his boom games, if you want to call them boom games, his higher production games are going to be more few and far between than they would be without him. And that's just, that makes sense. But there's plenty of pass catchers on the Cardinals offense. So it's going to be very distributed, I think, with Kyler Murray throwing the ball. The offense overall will be better. So I think Rondale Moore might have better touchdown upside. But with that touchdown upside comes less security in his floor.
Now, Taysom Hill, he had 4 touchdowns this past week?
Total touchdowns.
Total touchdowns. He is a short-term ad. We don't know how long this is going to last, but if you don't have a reliable tight end, if he's available, you got to pick him up. Just start him. I'd rather just shoot for the upside, but understand I might end up with a 0, right? But at the end of the day, I'd rather start him over some of these low end tight ends who are gonna give you 4 or 5 points anyway. Who cares? So we're probably gonna have another week of Taysom Hill with the tight end designation because if ESPN or any other platform are gonna change it, they have to change it today, right before waivers, and they're gonna have to make that announcement pretty soon. Because people are going to be putting in their waiver claims. If they don't make it today, that means that they can't make it for the rest of the week. So if he is a tight end, going into waivers tonight, then that means that you're going to have him at tight end this week. So just look out for that. It's possible that it happens because of where he was playing in terms of his snaps. He was playing a lot of quarterback snaps. He was playing a lot of running back snaps, and he only had 3 snaps on as inline or as a receiver this week. Or maybe he had, just a couple. So just keep an eye on that.
Yeah, Taysom Hill finds his value because he's a tight end right now. If he moves, he might not be a very good play, but at tight end, like I said, there's nobody, it seems like this season, that's going to produce for you on a consistent basis outside of Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews.
Pretty much.
So Taysom Hill, if you want to shoot upside, he is a lightning strike player. If you get a lightning strike, awesome. If you don't, you're kind of screwed. But you might be better off just shooting for that upside, like you said.
I think Mike Boone's still worth a pickup. He's still available in most leagues.
Yeah.
He looked better than Melvin Gordon at times during that game last week. He was the primary passing down back for the Broncos. If Gordon fumbles again, or if he's not effective, it's possible Boone can take more work away from him. He only played 11 less snaps than Gordon. He only ran 2 less routes than him. He saw 10 opportunities last week in that first game without Javonte. There's a little bit of standalone value here, like in deep leagues, but he's mostly just a stash, for a week or two, just to kind of see how this backfield ends up shaping out. I have Latavius Murray here somewhere on the next slide as well. So, he's also a prospective ad just in case to see like, hey, like, was he, did they only add him for depth? Did they add him to potentially compete with Boone and Gordon? If Gordon does fumble, if he does end up fumbling at some point again, for the 5th or 6th time, Latavius Murray, he's like the opposite of that. Like he never fumbles. So that's probably why they brought him on. And do they want to kind of have him compete on early downs? Who knows? It's possible. So he's a prospective ad as well, but I do prefer Boone if both these guys are available.
Yeah, I like Mike Boone. Like I said, when you watch him run, he seems a little bit more explosive than Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon can run, but he does have that fumbling issue. It didn't really come up last week, so like you said, we'll see what happens. I think both of their ceilings are capped. These guys, I think, are flex plays at best. We had Melvin Gordon maybe as an RB2 last week, even though it was low end, I think it was. I see Melvin Gordon as a flex play because the offense is just bad. This is the type of production we're expecting from Seahawks running backs, and we're getting that from Russell Wilson in Denver. The offense has just been bad. This is the offense we expect to see in Seattle, and now we're seeing it in Denver. It's weird to say, but at this point, I think it's fair. The upside is severely limited right now in Denver for any fantasy player.
It's true. Unless someone has a 3 down, every down type of role. In which case, and we'll get to Jaylen Warren too in the next slide. We're going to go to 11 through 20 now. Alec, where is Jaylen Warren? Oh, there he is. 13.
Yep.
Okay. I was about to say, I was looking for yellow and I saw black. That's fine.
Yeah.
Alec Pierce, I have him here at number 11. He has quietly put up some good games over the past 3 weeks. 3 for 61 in week 3. 4 for 80 in week 4, and then 8 for 81 on 9 targets last week. His targets went up every single week over the past 3 weeks. Pittman is obviously the guy there, who, by the way, I feel like Pittman is he's being slept on right now. Like he had a really tough matchup last week. They double teamed the shit out of him, and I don't think this is what we're going to see moving forward. But he's a little bit of a buy low for me. We'll talk about him tomorrow. But Pierce is looking like the clear number 2 in the pass game. Matt Ryan, he had to pass the ball 37 times or more in 4 of 5 games so far this year. So there's some opportunity there. If he can carve out some target share, from those 37 attempts per like that he's slinging out, there is some upside here, and he could potentially be in that wide receiver 3 conversation.
And I think that's fair. We talked about, how outside of Michael Pittman, who was Matt Ryan going to throw to? We kind of identified Alec Pierce as someone that might be able to step up and take that role. It looks like he's starting to do that. He's earning the trust slowly of Matt Ryan. Obviously, in this offense, it's not going to be, perfect, awesome upside, but he has a role now. He's no longer being like phased out. He's no longer situational. I think that he's going to be a pretty good fantasy contributor moving forward behind Michael Pittman. And we saw him outscore Michael Pittman last week. I don't think that's going to be a regular occurrence. I think that Alec Pierce is going to be working behind Michael Pittman in most cases and producing behind him, but he definitely has value because outside now of Michael Pittman, there's Alec Pierce, and outside of that, there's not so much. So now there's 2 viable targets for Matt Ryan in the Colts offense, and that only spells good things for the offense as a whole. Hopefully they can get it together.
I see this comment in the chat from Isaac, and Isaac, I'm sorry that I'm laughing right now. I don't mean to. But he just said he started Leonard Fournette, Breece Hall, and Travis Kelce, and he lost by 15. 157.5 to 172. That's brutal, dude. That sucks.
The other guy must have had Gabe Davis.
Probably had Gabe Davis. Who else went off this
Josh
week?
Jacobs, probably.
Geno Smith, Josh Jacobs. Oh, man. Oh, brutal. That sucks, dude. It's like, when you guys go off, you hope to get that W, but sometimes you just get unlucky, man. Oh, man, that's terrible.
Yeah.
All right, we got Zay Jones here at number 12. He came back from injury. He didn't have a big game, and some might be wondering why I have him this high, but he did see another big target number game this week. Christian Kirk didn't. It was Marvin Jones first, Evan Ingram second, and then Zay Jones. So the only constant here is Zay Jones, right? Like Evan Ingram's not going to get those type of targets every week. Marvin Jones isn't either.
Yeah.
So, I feel like those two were just blips in the radar. Jones has now seen 8+ targets in 3 of his 4 games. So he can be a flex play if you need it through the buys. I don't want to look at this. This is just a complete off game for this Jaguars offense, especially the passing offense. I don't look at this bad game from Zay Jones, and I don't. I just kind of chalk it up to it being a bad game. I think he's going to continue to get his targets, and he was kind of banged up coming into the game. So I think moving forward, I think he'll be kind of a mainstay on this offense potentially. So if you picked him up a couple weeks ago after his big game, I wouldn't necessarily drop him. And if you need wide receiver help right now with all these buys coming up, I think Zay Jones could potentially help you.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And we've been talking about Zay Jones as, just a high target share earner in the Jaguars offense. And we talked about yesterday too, how, Trevor Lawrence, the issues with the Jags offense these past 2 weeks start and end with Trevor Lawrence. As if Trevor Lawrence could get together and play like he did the first 2 weeks, we're looking at the offense will be perfectly fine. But until he corrects those issues, it's going to be rough sailing for these receivers moving forward. Like Christian Kirk has kind of disappeared these past 2 weeks. And Zay Jones also has disappeared, whether that's a combination of his injury and then just a bad week this week. But it's Trevor Lawrence that's going to be determining whether these guys produce or not. Trevor Lawrence has not played well. They've just lost to a winless Houston team. I want to see if they get this on track. I'm not so comfortable starting any Jaguars receivers until they do right now. Maybe Christian Kirk because of his upside. Zay Jones, like you said, he could be a flex if you really need to. But I only have him in my lineup if I'm desperate.
Yeah, I'm definitely starting Christian Kirk. I'm still going to start him as like a wide receiver 2 right now. I think he'll get it together.
Yeah.
I think they had an off day, and he had an off day as well. He didn't get the targets. I think that's an anomaly. I think it'll correct itself. I have Jaylen Warren here at number 13. He's simply a stash right now. Najee Harris, he's been ineffective. Warren has eaten into Harris's work a little bit, and he looks better than Harris, and his numbers are better than Harris after contact and all that. But just in case that Harris gets hurt, Jaylen Warren, another 3-down potential every down running back. He's one of the few potential every down handcuffs that is still widely available on waiver wire. So like if guys like Rachaad White not available, guys like that, obviously, if you obviously a lot of people are going to try to get Kenneth Walker this week, but I think Warren is somebody that could potentially pay off for you later down the line if Najee Harris would ever miss a game or whatever the case may be. So he should be stashed on your bench so you don't have to empty your bag on him if Najee ends up getting banged up.
Yeah, it's not even that you have to, with Jaylen Warren, it's not that you have to wait for Najee to get injured or anything because, this was a negative game script game from the beginning and Jaylen Warren outproduced Najee Harris. We could see more Jaylen Warren moving forward if Najee Harris continues to be as inefficient as he is. I don't think that they're going to just keep handing the ball to Najee Harris if he's getting 2 yards a carry in this game, which is what he got against the Bills. And granted, it's the Bills defense. They're very good, and it was in Buffalo. But if Najee Harris continues to underperform like he has been, we could see more Jaylen Warren, and he could start to have a little standalone value, at least more than we thought he would heading into the season. I think that this is a really good stash. If you miss out on the big name guys on the waiver wire this week, and you want to load up for later, Jaylen Warren is a nice pickup.
It's just the traditional Steelers every down handcuff every single year. It's somebody. Actually, over the past couple of years, we didn't really know who it was going to be, but this year it's pretty clear that it's going to be Jaylen Warren. He looks like a good player. He does.
No,
I would be very interested to see like what he can do with some opportunity.
Yeah.
But yeah, Wan'Dale Robinson at number 14. The Giants have nobody at wide receiver. It seems like Wan'Dale will be returning soon. Maybe this week, maybe next week, but at some point, whenever he does return, he might be walking into a ton of opportunity. Kadarius Toney injured his second hamstring, and if he had a third hamstring, he might have injured that as well. So just make sure that Wan'Dale Robinson is one of those guys who has upside, and he's widely available in leagues. He could potentially, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he's getting 10 targets, out of the slot, from Daniel Jones. I would not be surprised if that happens. So he's a little bit of a stash. If you can't, you might not want to play him in his first game back. and that might end up happening because he did practice last week. He was like kind of close. I would say he might have been like 70% there. So it's possible that he ends up playing in week 6.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about Wan'Dale Robinson over the offseason, the course of the offseason, saying that he could have a role even with Kadarius Toney playing, even with all the other receivers playing. So he could be walking in a receiver room that's devoid of weapons, and he could really be a go-to guy, I think, for these next few weeks if he plays. I was a big fan of Wan'Dale Robinson, the whole offseason because of that volume that he could end up getting. And I think he's really quarterback friendly. And with Daniel Jones at quarterback and looking to get the ball out fast, I think that he could have some really good value and be an every week flex with upside.
Yeah, and Corey Davis, if you need somebody to play, like plug in your lineup through these bye weeks, and you need some help, Davis, he's leading the Jets in receiving. He has 3 games above 74 receiving yards. So I think he's a decent bye week fill-in over the next couple of weeks. And this is going to be a theme over from now until, week 11, week 12, whenever. Actually, no, the last bye week is in week 13. If I'm not mistaken, the Colts and Jonathan Taylor are on bye week 13. So Michael Pittman will be on bye that week as well. Alec Pierce, those guys. So, from now up until the end of the year, we're going to be talking about these bye week fill-ins. And, these are the guys that you're going to have to pay attention to on the waiver wire. Corey Davis is like the epitome of that type of fill-in, pretty much.
Yeah. It's the least wonderful time of year when these bye weeks start coming in, because then there's a lot of roster shuffling that goes around. The first 5 weeks you spend, if your team doesn't get injured, you're good. But then suddenly your studs start falling out of your lineup for no reason. It's a real pain. But Corey Davis could be a good guy. And he's serving almost the same role that he had last season. His upside isn't necessarily there, but he can be a solid starter for you week in and week out if he gets enough targets. And he has quiet games. And that's what you expect, from somebody that's filling in for you on bye. But I like Corey Davis. He's a good receiver. Even when he was in Tennessee, he was a good receiver. So there's no reason not to start him. He's on a good offense, a suddenly good Jets offense. At least it looks like so far, because Breece Hall is the engine there. It's opened up a lot, even for Zach Wilson in the passing game.
Zach and I are playing each other in a league called The Only League That Matters. And he was just talking about losing guys on bye. He's going to have Devonta Adams on bye this week against me. So
and DeAndre
Swift. You don't understand on DeAndre Swift as well. Listen, man, you don't understand how happy that makes me feel. It makes me go into the week so happy. Now
you get a free win.
If I get my ass kicked, and if I lose, it's going to feel way worse. You know what I'm saying? So, it's a double-edged sword. I gotta come through. I have nobody on bye this week. But I'm hoping Keenan Allen can finally come back. That's what I'm hoping for in that league, because I scraped by the past couple of weeks without Keenan Allen, got some W's, but still, I need him back.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was pretty loud about how his Chargers, the decisions the Chargers were making in this game.
Yeah,
in this last game. He was kind of loud about it. So it's interesting. His head coach is probably going to have some words with Keenan Allen, hey, dude, let's not try to put those decisions out in the open. Okay, please. Yeah. And I also don't want them to suspend him for a game also. So let's see. Josh Kelley, I have him at number 16. This could flip-flop back and forth right now, right? But as of right now, it looks like Kelley is Eckler's backup. I feel like we play this game every single year. Who's Eckler's backup? I don't know. But 59% of snaps for Eckler, 38% for Kelley, and then 3% for Michelle. So take that for what you will. As of right now, if you said, "Oh, Eckler's out, who am I going to play?" It's probably going to be Josh Kelley.
Yeah, it has to be Josh Kelley. His skill set is much closer to Austin Eckler than Sony Michel's is, and it doesn't seem like the Chargers are terribly interested in using Michel in any type of fantasy relevant way. Although,
it's crazy because I feel like the only snaps he came in for was those goal line snaps. He had 2 goal line snaps this past week, which was why? Just leave him off the field, dude.
Right.
What's the point of this? Is that the only reason why you're keeping him active? So you can put him in on the goal lines? Come on. Austin Eckler scored 20 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
He'll be fine.
Yeah, you don't need another goal line guy. You have Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler does it all.
I think Kelley will be fine too. Kelley's
that's what I'm saying.
Big back. He'll be all right.
Josh Kelley, he looked good. Even though the workload wasn't necessarily the same as Eckler's, he still produced very well. It's at the end of the day, it's a good Chargers offense, and anybody can produce. Josh Kelley had a good week this week. I wouldn't rely on him, as a weekly starter. But if you need him to fill in, like we talk about with these bye weeks, Josh Kelley could be the guy if you can't get anybody else. Like I might be in that situation this week. We'll see how it goes.
That's true.
So
That's
Josh
true.
Kelley, desperate play. He could end up producing for you in a decent way.
100%. I should have left him off this list. Going into number 17, we got Gus Edwards as a stash here. Edwards started to practice last week, so he can be back within the next couple weeks. Since we know that J.K. Dobbins is going to split time, we talked about this yesterday, regardless of who the running back is behind him. Kenyon Drake, who cares? Mike Davis, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I always forget Justice Hill's name. Like, I don't know why. Like, it doesn't roll off. Like, there's no like permanent space for Justice Hill in my brain for some reason. But whether it's him, like, he'll get touches. And like, why did Kenyon Drake out snap? You know what I'm saying? J.K. Dobbins. Like, it makes no sense to me. I don't understand. I really don't.
Yeah.
But anyway, when Gus Edwards ends up coming back, he's gonna have that role. 1A, 1B type of situation. You're not gonna know who the 1A, 1B is. You would assume that it's J.K. Dobbins, but who knows? Yeah. But yeah, he should be stashed at this point.
You'd assume it's J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards when they come back, but it seems like Baltimore is pretty keen on using the guys that they picked up from, waivers and just added randomly from who knows where, trying to revive Kenyon Drake's career. They saw what he did in, what was it? Was it Arizona? Where he was really good for a couple days. So maybe they're just trying to revive that career. But Gus Edwards, he was supposed to be the RB1 for the Ravens last year when J.K. Dobbins went down. And then he also went down with an injury. I think they like Gus Edwards. I don't think that they're going to sit him behind Kenyon Drake when he comes back.
No. It's going to be the 1A, 1B between J.K. and Dobbins. I'm sorry, J.K. and Gus. It's just a matter of like, you never know. Like 1 week it could be Gus. 1 week it could be J.K. You just kind of don't know what's going to happen there.
Right.
But J.K. obviously has the upper hand at this point just because of the fact that he's been back. And it's interesting because he had a worse injury than Edwards did in terms of like, he tore his like a bunch of other stuff besides the ACL.
Yeah.
And I don't think Edwards did, if I'm not mistaken. But I ain't no doctor. I don't know. Maybe the rehab didn't go as well. Also, JK probably has some more money to spend when it comes to like rehab and stuff like that. Right? Think about that.
Yeah.
Right. Over the offseason, he probably has more resources than Gus. But yeah, interesting stuff. Hunter Henry at number 18 here. Geno Smith was out last week. Hunter Henry ended up being a full-time player. He was on the field for like every single snap. If Smith is out again this week and you need a tight end and Taysom Hill's not available, I would go Henry this week.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about Hunter Henry. It was a decent week. This is just the tight end, carousel. We're not sure who's going to be performing well. This is just one good week. I wouldn't rely on that on a weekly basis, but if you need someone to fill in a tight end, maybe he has a little momentum moving forward. But tight ends,
it's really about him playing every snap and he's running every route, and we don't have that many tight ends doing that. So if you need a tight end, just grab him and put him in your lineup. He'll give you a 0 maybe. I don't know. Latavius Murray at number 19. We talked about him already as a potential stash, just in case they actually added him for some purpose other than being a backup. Khalil Shakir, I have him here. We talked about him. He looked good in relief of Isaiah McKenzie. I think he can improve to eventually become a better player than McKenzie, but the only question is whether that happens soon and if that happens this year. But there's a small chance that Khalil has carved out a role in the slot with McKenzie. I just want to take shots on guys in this Bills offense pretty much, and guys who are going to be catching the ball from Josh Allen. Just take shots, see what happens. I don't know. But yeah, he's like a little bit of a prospective ad for me. And that's pretty much it. Did you have any other ads, man, to add here, or was that pretty much wrap it up?
That about does it. The only guy that I can think of, Randall Cobb. Aaron Rodgers is throwing to him. I guess you could make him maybe an ad. He did well, and it's not like he hasn't been getting targets. We know Aaron Rodgers likes throwing at Randall Cobb, but if you're really, really in a pinch and need someone to start, I think that could be a spot that you look.
Hey, I think that's a really good call out because Randall Cobb, his routes have gone up. I was looking at that yesterday. He ran a route on 63% of dropbacks. There was a serious rotation with these running backs. He ran more routes than Romeo Doubs. Okay.
Yeah. And he had 13 targets, I think, against the Giants. And I'm not sure if that's going to stick around. It seems like it's just going to be a carousel, like I said, for the Packers receivers. But Randall Cobb looked good. I think he has the chance to be a solid contributor on a weekly basis.
He did not run more routes than Romeo Doubs. I'm sorry. I was looking at week 1. This is week 3. This is week 5. Christian Watson got hurt, right? He has I think it was a hamstring injury again, if I'm not mistaken, or some sort of injury. He left the game. He only ran 9 routes in this game.
Yeah, hamstring injury.
Randall Cobb ended up running 29 routes for 71% route participation. That was not the case. He was running under 50% the prior weeks. So, I think that's very, very, viable. 12 targets this past week, 33% target share. Yeah, if you're in a pinch, deep league, do it.
Yeah.
That'll do it, guys. We appreciate you. Hope you guys end up getting who you want on waivers. Hope you have enough money in your Fab bank account to get Kenneth Walker. I think it'll be good for you and your fantasy team. All right.
Yeah.
Take it easy, guys. We'll see you soon. Talk to you tomorrow. We'll be back buys and sells tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see you guys later. Peace.